this now. It's coming, drag me to the water and bury me deep. I got a wretched soul that longs to sleep. Bring me to the slaughter, another one of your sheep. I've got an aching heart that longs to be alone.
Hi, I'm Ian,
And I'm Jamie from King Voodoo.
and you're watching the Paranormal Brew.
I love them guys.
That's a nice opening. I like the song. I like
Yeah,
the
they're
music.
awesome. It's King Voodoo. They're from the UK.
Awesome. That's really
So-
cool. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. I love their music. So how are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
That's good. That's good.
I think we're all excited for this. I know I am for sure.
I hope
Because
it's
this is at the ending to
a long
2 months.
and it's not completely over for at least for me yet.
Well, I'm in the, if you need, if-
Right. I still have a few irons in the fire, as I say. But
Yeah. Yeah.
go ahead.
I totally ran out of time today. I don't know how I did because I'm not working. Anyway, ran out of time today to Google him. So I don't know if you have. I haven't heard anything lately. But anyways, before we get into that, I'm just saying I didn't have a chance to Google him today.
Okay. Yeah, I've been Googling. I mean, we probably should give some kind of context to
I know, that's what I'm saying.
watching. Like,
I'm gonna explain first, and then
Okay.
we'll go. Yeah.
all right.
So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. We have a lot of people checking in.
Awesome.
April, hello, April. Studio 6 Paranormal. That would be Jay Hill, Tom Flock, Ray, JD Sword.
Hey, JD.
And we're just gonna leave this up. What are we gonna do? It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Farmer. Hi, Patricia. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
Tracy.
So nice.
Chaos. Ron Styles. Hi. Ajing. Thank you so much. Checking in from Indonesia.
Ooh.
And Sharon. Shut up. Every time I hear her name, I think of Ozzy. And every time I hear your name, I think of Kenny from
South Park.
Yes. I always hear, oh my God, they killed me. So good evening, everybody. I have with me, I don't think he really does need an introduction, to be honest with you. Kenny, Biddle, Skeptic, Inquirer, the one we all love to
Hate.
Wait.
Hate the love.
I don't hate you. No, I love you.
love
So
the hate.
you're
It's
my
all right.
I totally love you.
Good.
And as you all know, it's come up a lot in the paranormal community that there was somebody making their way through our podcasts, and everything he was saying was completely false, almost, that we know of. So when I first found this, when I got a gut feeling while he was on my show, and I Googled, I got a little bit of stuff, but I really couldn't find anything. And I was like, this, and I felt it was more serious than not. So my first phone call was to Kenny. And I said, can you help me with this? And I gave him a little bit of the background and stuff. And while we were on the phone, Kenny started Googling, and he was like doing his thing. And like within 15 minutes came up with like 3 things that I didn't, and we were talking about it. And then we decided to like really look into it. My next phone calls were to at the time where all my stuff was streaming. I called all the network owners and said, I'm deleting these videos. And I told them heads up, because I know they have other shows coming on, and, and gave them the opportunity to decide whether or not they wanted the people that are streaming on their network to have those other shows. So with that, one of the network that I was with was Parapost, Brian Lafferty. He reached out to a couple of the people that podcast on the network that either had him on. So it was like kind of like this closed little circle of investigating at first and trying to, you know, figure it out, because he was still this guy was still my friend on Facebook. He was still messaging me, even though every single live he was going on thereafter, I was blasting him with questions, me and April. Well, I left that part out. April Busette actually called me the next day and said she had a bad feeling about it. And that's when I called Kenny, because I knew something was wrong. So sorry, I didn't mean to backtrack, but I didn't want to leave that part out because she was kind of like the force behind it for me to kind of go forward. And she was also my sidekick for a week with trying to get him to answer questions on podcasts. So we were like on every podcast, right, typing questions, and they got ignored. Anyway, not ignored. I don't want to say that to be rude. Some of them were asked, but you know, I know when you're doing a podcast, it's hard to go back and forth. Anyway.
Yeah, depending on the podcast.
Right.
You know, the format, yeah.
So I really think you should probably take it from here.
All right. So basically, yeah. So this gentleman, so we're going to talk about him. So his name is Robert Riggy, and he claims to be a psychic medium and forensic psychologist and he claims to have 2 master degrees in forensic psychology and clinical social work. So he's been making the rounds, and yeah, I mean, you reached out to me, which was I love that kind of stuff when somebody reaches out and says, you know what, I really want to learn how to do this, you know, and this, you gave me the backstory, you sent me the link to the show, and I watched it, and yeah, I started thinking like, something's off with this guy. And he doesn't, mostly because he doesn't speak like a well-educated person. He doesn't use the right terminology, vernacular. He doesn't use the terms that you would think a psychologist would, especially when he talks about further education. So we started looking into it, and for the first 2 weeks, it was really like, let's let's listen to interviews. And I gotta tell you, you go down a rabbit hole of investigating, and I've listened to probably close to 3 dozen podcasts. And I mean,
you can say it in all damn.
Oh yeah. I mean, it
was like 2 weeks in, and I text you and I'm like, if I hear my brothers and my sisters one more time, I'm going to shoot my eyeball out.
It is hard. It's difficult to listen to somebody talk about the same things over and over again. But in doing so, and this is probably one of the most difficult parts of what I do, how I investigate, is because you need that repetition. If you keep listening to their story over and over again, you start to not only develop a pattern that you can base it off of. You get a baseline. But you also pick out when the story changes.
Right.
And I mean, little details here and there are going to happen.
Right.
It's just a natural evolution.
I do it.
Yeah. Everyone does it. When we retell a story, we become more and more familiar with it. And even for ourselves, retelling the same story like 50 times gets boring. So, oh my goodness.
Sorry. Is that loud?
That was loud, yes.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
My microphone fell over. It was like, boom. Okay, go ahead.
But when you can listen over and over again, and you're expecting specific details, and then all of a sudden those details are completely different than previous versions, they stand out, and you can start picking apart a story. And then, of course, when you actually get names and places and dates, you can start checking or fact checking them and saying, oh, you know what? You mentioned this organization. We can call that organization, and we can see if they have records. We can check other records. We can check universities. We can check dioceses, archdioceses. We can check employment records. We can check all of this stuff. It just takes the time to do it. And for the most part, and I'm not going to say this specifically of ghost hunters, but I think a lot of hobbyists that investigate things don't put that much time into it. And I wish they would. I really wish they would. And especially in this case, because this was a good lesson about having guests on a show.
Absolutely.
Because if you just take it off of reputation because they've been on other podcasts or other radio interviews, you don't really know their background. Right. All you're getting is what they're telling you. And one of the lessons is if they tell you they have a degree, especially 2, when you graduate with 2 master degrees, that's a big deal. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to say, hey, can I see your diploma? You know, where have you worked that I can check and verify it? Don't hesitate to ask that, because that's your right. Because if you put somebody on your show, and I know I've done it, everyone has done it, but if you put someone on your show that has false credentials and you promote them and you don't question them during the show, then you help promote them and promote that false idea.
Right.
So, like, for instance, there was a gentleman, and I mean, he did one on a podcast. He interviewed this Mr. Riggy, and when I contacted him and told him what I found out about some of the stuff, his response was professional, but it was, you know, I'm just a one-man show here, and I don't have time to, you know, look into all my guests. And my response really is, you know what? I'm a one-man show.
Right.
But I do a background check on people that I have on my show. You know, it's just, for me, it's part of being thorough and making sure, because I strive to be an educational show. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure the education that I'm putting out there is legit and it's not coming from some jackass that makes up a bunch of stuff.
And I do the same, just on a different, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I want to put the education out there for, if he was legit, like Lloyd Auerbach is coming on, you know what I mean? So that, like, that type of stuff.
Lloyd and I are friends. We taught a course together. He actually reached out to me to help teach a course on skepticism and parapsychology, and we did it. It went well. We're going to do it again at the end of this year. And awesome. But he has a legit parapsychology degree. You know, he went to school. He actually got his degrees, and then because parapsychology is more of it's a not an elective, but you have to have an advanced degree before you can go and get a parapsychology degree.
Right. So it's like a subspecialty.
Yeah. So, and you can't get it in the States anymore.
Right.
The only place that I know of that has it, and I'm sure I think there's a few others, but the University of Edinburgh, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But they're the only ones that offer the academic degree. But Lloyd, yeah, I mean, he's got legit credentials, and you can ask him. And he has no problem telling you and giving you names and where to call and showing you whatever you need to show. And a guest should not be upset if you ask him about that. If you ask for my credentials, I can tell you. I mean, I have an associate's in automotive gas and diesel repair. That's my academic credentials. But I also have I have my fellowship award for CSI. I have all the articles that I've written online, all cited, referenced properly. I do have a background in this. My photography background, I didn't go to school, self-taught, but I can show you all the articles that I've written, and you can go down. You can critique the shit out of them if you want to.
Right.
I'm good with that, especially if I made a mistake. I would like to know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're getting off.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, even with like I had Don Moellner on. He's a physician. I hate just calling him Don Moellner, but
wasn't he at that bash?
Mm-hmm. He's an ER physician, you know, and I know that for a fact. So when I bring him on, you know, even though he's more, you know, on the paranormal side of things, you know what I mean? Like, but his educational background and his scientific thoughts and this and that, like, for me, kind of like hold a little bit more weight, you know, because of that, you know. So that's, you know, I feel, you know, having him on my show, I feel I know how some people feel the same way I did, feeling like,
Dude.
kind of, yeah. But not thinking like, why didn't I think to look my guests up? I've been doing this since 2017. Right?
You know what? In your defense, most podcasts are for entertainment.
Right.
There's of course there's a lot that's out there for education, different kinds of education, but many podcasts, and I think including yours for a while, is for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's to get someone on and talk, and you talk about a specific interest that you're into.
Right.
So when you hear somebody on a different show and they come highly recommend it, it's easy to fall into that. And say, oh yeah, I want them on. And I've done it where I was like, hey, podcasts are for drinking. That's right, Tim. But I mean, I've listened to several podcasts. Like there's a whole bunch that I listen to routinely, but most of mine are science-based
Right.
podcasts. But when I hear a guest on that sounds interesting, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'd like to have them on the show.
Right.
And my first thought, I don't know if it's because of just over the years of investigating people and just finding out not everyone's 100% honest. My first thought is background check. And I look into their past and see what they actually do, where they're from.
Right.
If I see it on TV, especially reality shows, if they put that lower thirds title on the screen, sometimes that's made up by the producers and editors. So I look that up to see if they're really a scientist or really a science journalist.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're not always. I mean, there's a gentleman that we both know that used to put parapsychologist as his title. And he's not at all, and I approached him about it and we disagreed, but I don't think he uses that anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I
wrote an article about it. But podcast like Devil in the Details. Oh, self-plugging there, JD. Yeah. So let's get into why this topic and this gentleman. So there's several topics that we can tackle. So the claims are that he's a psychic medium. I'm just going to leave that alone because that's just too easy to get into.
I know.
But mainly, he claims to be a forensic psychologist. He claims to have been involved with 2 exorcisms that were sanctioned by the Archdiocese of Chicago.
But see, can I just say something really quick?
Sure.
Whether or not you believe in psychic mediums, there's like so many people out there that do. So the fact that he's even claiming to be a psychic medium and then to use that to say, I did exorcisms, and then to use that to say, I can help your children who may be psychic or medium and they don't know what's going on. Like he's still using that avenue to get in there.
That's the main purpose of why I think you felt uneasy and why I really took interest in this. So he has this extensive background that he talks about, and like seeing Abraham Lincoln when he was 4 years old. And we're going to get into that in a second. But this extensive background where he also works for a hospice with children. And he claims that he works with 15 or 16, depending on the podcast you listen to, children. And and every single podcast interview that he's done, he always references it the same way. I mentor 15 children, of which I will call the children of the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
And that these are all children that have some kind of psychic ability, according to him, and that their parents are confused, that these children are confused. And then he goes in to the really kind of disturbing stuff where he quotes this statistic. Oh my God, I hate saying this word. He quotes this stat of every 16 seconds, a children of the paranormal tries to commit suicide. Now, there is nowhere that you're going to find that stat. There's no place. That's a completely fabricated statistic. He just didn't. He made it up. And then he goes into how 2 of the children, a couple months before he got there, before their parents reached out to him, they tried to commit suicide. but they're all better now because he got involved.
Yep.
And then 2 other children began to self-mutilate themselves. And that was before he got involved. And now everything's good. And he blames this, or he credits this to his psychology background and social work background. And it's just disturbing because he's thanks to it's disturbing because he's encouraging parents. He's using this background, which we're going to get into each one and why it's wrong. But he gets into this, he gives this background, he gives these credentials and encourages parents of children that think they might be psychic to reach out to him and contact him so he can mentor them. And then he gives hints and actually says sometimes that he's traveled to these people's houses and stayed with them for days. And it's really, really disturbing. It sounds like, oh, you know, he sounds like a great guy and he's helping out. But now we get into investigating the claims.
Right. But can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
He's also going into the homes because he claims to be able to, like Kenny said, work for this hospice but he claims like he can help these children. He helps these children cross over. And in one podcast, he said that what he does is he tells the father to take the child. And after the child passes away he tells the father to take the child and bathe the child and then dress the child. And then the mother and the father, if both are around, mother, father, whatever, takes the child out to the mortuary's car or the coroner's car, whoever's there, because he says that he tells the parents this is the last thing that they could do while their child is here. So go ahead. I just wanted to say that was another way.
He's got a strange, it's almost, when you listen to him over and over again, and I don't suggest you do, honestly, we did it so you don't have to, trust us. He has this thing where he wants to put out something different, some kind of different method in order to look special or to single himself out from the crowd. And he really has that like kind of narcissist, kind of, I want the spotlight attitude with everything. And he does it in a creepy kind of way. Because most of his stories, and hopefully we'll get in and touch on some of these things, but most of his stories, he brings in some kind of sexual component. Yeah. And it really bothers me because it's not necessary to the story. It's not necessary to his part of the story, right. But he brings it in. And I mean, there's a Ted Bundy interview that he talks about. And we're not going to get into the weird shit because it's just gross and disgusting. And I can't believe he brings some of this shit up. Right. Because it has nothing to do with him and he's doing it for shock value. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to move on. So I'm going to start with his origin story because he tells us all the time that he grew up in Illinois, and when he was 4 years old, he woke up at 3 a.m. depending on the podcast you listen to. Right. But I think he got the most attention from saying 3 a.m. because there's supposed to be something supernatural associated with that. Bullshit.
I don't believe that. So.
He goes on and he talks about seeing his first ghost or first apparition. And that it's because he's in the state of Illinois, he saw Abraham Lincoln. And he knew it because Abraham Lincoln's picture was on the Lincoln logs that he had growing up. And
everybody had a picture of it.
Everyone had it. Yeah, everyone had a penny. So I kept going through, and I'm checking my notes here. Let me, because I want to make sure I get it right. There is an episode in 2019. He did an interview where he starts telling this origin story, and it's same exact details. He woke up, he had to pee because that's the common thing. That's why he got up. It's 3 a.m. He goes to the bathroom and he sees his first apparition. And in this version, he says, I don't know who it was, but he told me his name was Lucas.
Right.
And I actually stopped it. I was like, what?
Like,
Wait a minute.
you're right.
Said Abraham Lincoln like 15 times in
Right.
different interviews. And now, wait, it's Lucas? And that's the difference. When he saw Abraham Lincoln, he wasn't scared at all because he knew who he was. And Abraham gave him this like nodding and smiling thing saying, it's going to be okay. You're special. But
Did
now
you see this?
he admitted to participating in satanic panic in the early night. He's admitted to everything. So if you
Even Mother Teresa taught him 3 times.
if you anything that the interviewer brings up, like remote viewing, in one episode, the host asked if he could do remote viewing, and you hear him pause. Oh yeah, I've done that. So that's the kind of attitude he adopts and sucks in any kind of new power. Problem is there are so many lies that even he exactly, and that's what's happening here. So that's just his origin story. He totally messed that up. Changed the apparition that he saw because I guess Abraham Lincoln got a more of a dramatic effect or response from the people he was talking. Oh, Kim, I love you.
She's in love with Abe. She's in love with Abe Lincoln.
Oh, why?
She literally said she masturbates to him. She's in love with Abe Lincoln. I don't know if she's ever said that. I'm just picking that up. That's how she acts.
Turn for the worse. Here we go. Drink.
I'm kidding. I made that up. I didn't know. Look, see, she's.
Oh my God. All right.
All right,
So
go ahead.
Let's see. Let's see. So many notes. So that's his big origin story, and it just changes, and that pretty much sets the tone for what's gonna come up next. Let me see. I got the wrong notes here. What do I got here? Then he goes on to, let me see. Oh, licensed psychologist. So in several podcasts, we were listening to him. He makes this comment, and it's very routine. It's very practiced. That he has 2 master's degrees from the University of Florida. He has one in forensic psychology and one in clinical social work. He graduated in 1980. And when you listen to enough, he adds on the following details of how he's licensed. He's licensed to practice forensic psychology, or he's a licensed forensic psychologist, depending on his wording, depending on the interview. So there's a lot with this.
I know.
First and foremost, I contacted the University of Florida registrar. And there's a revelation, but a caveat to this. So according to them, they have no record of a Robert Riggy at their university. However, they said that if the student was born before 1955, then the records may not be in the digital system unless the student themselves requested it. Riggy was born in 54. So that stands to be a problem. However,
did he know that? And is that his real birthday? No, I'm kidding.
It is.
You probably would have found that. You probably would have found that out.
That totally is. Because we matched it to his criminal record.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know for sure, but there's a possibility that he doesn't have a degree at all, or even attended the University of Florida. But because he claims to be licensed, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. First of all, you can't be a forensic psychologist with a master's degree.
Right.
You need a PhD program. And that's Florida state law. You need to be in a doctoral program and graduate. And then you need, I believe it's 2,000 hours of supervised work in that field. And then you can apply for licensure, either an oral or written exam.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no record of that. I did contact the Florida Department of Health, and I talked to them to see if I could verify whether or not Riggy ever had a license, whether it's inactive or active. They got back to me. There's no record of Robert Riggy ever having a license in Florida. So that's done. That's done. But we go further because back and forth, you and I went back and forth, and over the course of several episodes, he claims to first in the timeline. So I actually have a full timeline. It's like 6 pages long of
It's
all the
amazing.
podcasts I've listened to with timestamps of all the quotes that he said, which was painstaking. It's really, really hard. But pretty sure there are criminal statutes for practicing without license, fraud. Yeah,
Imposter, yeah,
we might get into that a little bit. But so first in the timeline, he makes a statement that he is licensed in 9 states, which is a pretty big deal. It's not practical, and I've talked to several friends who are in the field, and it's just not practical. 2 states, maybe, if you're on the border. Like for me, I'm in Philly, you're in Jersey, but it's close. If someone was practicing here, it might be beneficial for them, to be licensed in Jersey and Pennsylvania, and maybe even Delaware, because we have the tri-state area going here. But when you're in the middle of Illinois, there's no reason to be licensed in more than 1 state, let alone 9. But it gets better from there, because 3 months later, he does another interview where he says he's licensed in 10 states. And then 6 days after that interview, literally 6 days, then he's up to 12. He's up to 12 states. And he's saying this. It's his voice. It's his quote. He's being interviewed. He's saying this. So he gained 3 licenses, 3 state licensures in 3 months, which I don't get. I don't get. There's no reason for that. There's no reason to be. Plus, he just doesn't have the qualifications. He simply doesn't have the qualifications to apply
none of
for
it.
it. So this, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the data and the research suggests, he is not a licensed forensic psychologist. He's not licensed to practice. And it's completely fabricated. I went a step further, and I want to say I spent/wasted a few hours, and I went state by state, and I checked his name against psychology licensure in every state in the United States. No one has a record of him having a license in their state. None. And I took screenshots of most of the ones I did, but you can easily do it. You can look it up online yourself. Don't take my word for it. You can look up psychology license lookup. Just Google that. It'll take you to verification sites, and you can go state by state, and you can put his name in and what you're looking for. So as far as I'm concerned, and as far as my research says, he is not the person he says he is. And if he's using this to try to convince parents to let their kids be mentored by him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep.
that's the worst. And I'm getting so fucking angry just thinking about it.
And on my show, every time it started with every time he said the word children, like I got this just this feeling. I don't know. It's weird. And I'm not insinuating anything, but that's what happened. While I was interviewing him, that's what happened. My first thing was he said about that little girl, the girl in Florida.
Yeah.
I was like, but I asked him about the Abe Lincoln thing. I'm like, you knew who Abe Lincoln was at 4? And that was first. And then I kind of forgot about that part. And then he said about how he's works for the police and the attorney general and the FBI. But then later on says they wouldn't listen to him when he called up and was telling him where this little girl was. Who was alive.
That story, we can touch on that real quick here. Let me see. I forget which one I have. There's a
Yes,
it's a well-known case in Florida, and it's public knowledge, so we're not giving away any secrets or anything like that. It was a young lady named Jessica, young girl named Jessica. You can look it up. If you look up Florida missing person Jessica, it'll come up. But the whole story is there. Unfortunately, it does not have a happy ending. And during an interview, Mr. Riggy is asked about remote viewing of all things. And I can tell you right away, he doesn't understand what remote viewing means or what it is, because what he describes is not remote viewing. He actually says that he was meditating or something, and the spirit of this girl came to him. So he had like a visitation,
Right.
which is not remote viewing.
Right.
And that she showed him a few things, and he's telling this story and he's giving details, and it's the exact details of this actual missing person story, except for where he says she's being kept. And then, because that's wrong, he actually got that wrong. And when he called the police department to tell them, hey, I'm getting this is where she is. One, he says that they hung up on him, and then he called back and they hung up on him again, which you don't do. They don't do. You call in with a tip, they have to follow the tip. They don't hang up on you. So I'm calling bullshit on that.
Well, I did, because I said to him, I asked him, I said, why, if you worked for them for 35 years, why would they hang up on you?
Right.
Why would they hang up on you?
Like when this was happening, because he says he was a criminal profiler for the state of Florida, that he worked in Miami for 35 years. During the time he had this so-called vision, not remote viewing vision, he should have been living still in Florida, but he wasn't. He was in Illinois. So there's a discrepancy there, because again, like somebody said earlier, he told the story so many times he's forgotten the details. But he claims that the police department that he called, and I had the
You have it.
I have so many.
That was one of the things that we talked about.
I'm trying to find it in my notes because he talked about so many things.
Yeah, it was like
Okar.
Yeah, something.
Let me see. Whispers. I'm looking through all the notes I have, and again, it's a huge timeline of things. But he talks about this, and he calls a police department, but the police department that he called was not the police department that was handling it, or sheriff's office. He called one that was like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the actual location that was handling it. So not only did his psychic powers fail him with where this little girl was, but he didn't even look at the news, because if you looked at the news, they would have told you what county, what sheriff's office was handling this, and he could have called them. So yeah, he's such a dick.
So he never said the name of the little girl. He just said that, right?
Jessica.
Well, he said it on my text messages, right?
No, he said it on a podcast.
Oh, on another podcast. No,
Right.
on mine, it was just little girl. I remember I said to you, so when I had texted him and I said, hey, listen, I always go over my podcast. And this was when I was questioning him. So I kind of told a lie to get answers, but
right.
I said, I always listen to my podcasts afterwards. I said, we forgot to touch on some things, and one was the Ted Bundy thing, but we'll get into that when we get into that. But the other was, I said, why, and I asked him that question about why did they not listen to you? If you worked with them for 35 years.
Right.
And he said, who, Jessica? That was before you brought up the Jessica thing, because that was after I called you, but in between us talking. And he said, who, Jessica? So when you said to me, the only one that I could find that would be anywhere near there similar is a girl named Jessica, whatever, what her name was. And then I remembered seeing that even on TV. I remember that little girl. I remember that story.
He was on a podcast October 16th, 2021. It was called Beyond the Woodline podcast. And that's where he talks about this. And he mentions the He describes the missing murder child case of Jessica Lunsford. That's who it was. But he called and I'm probably going to butcher this name, Ocala, Ocala, Ocala National Forest. He calls the authorities there, which was completely wrong. That I don't know why he decided to call them, or maybe that's where he lived near, because he did live in Florida for a time. But maybe he lived near there, and that just was something that he knew. All right, so with that's the only time that I've heard him talk about that case. So moving on, we got the psychology thing. That's pretty much. Thank you, Tom. So he did first apparition, his psychology license. Yeah, no license at all.
He was I don't know how you did. Remember, he said he was a shaman, and he was also a Benedictine saint.
That I didn't even get into.
Oh, I know.
That
so
was just
crazy.
Again, it falls into that category of if the host mentions it, he's done it. Because he's has this whole thing about being like with Native Americans and part of this tribe and part of this tribe, and he's accepted by everyone. That he travels all over, and that was just too much. There was too much to get into there, and much more difficult to verify. So what I had was enough, because I was really looking for any story that he mentioned a specific name or organization, because I can really check on that. So the next thing I can go into is the exorcisms. So he has 2 exorcisms that he claims to have been sanctioned by the Archdiocese of Chicago. And the one he talks about the most is the exorcism of Kevin. He only gives the first name. Through the various podcasts, I was able to determine a time frame of this allegedly happened in 2017. And he tells this story about Kevin got his phone number, called him at 3:00 in the morning. Again, 3:00 in the morning. And tells him he's having trouble. He doesn't know what's wrong with him. Something's wrong. And then there's this whole 2 hours of like Robert hearing demon voices and seeing blood, and him, the demon telling him secrets. And he was like, wow, I think you are possessed. So Robert decides to call his parish, which is the Peoria, Illinois. He calls his parish and says, hey, I got this guy. I think he's possessed. I need someone to come down with me. And according to Robert, they send a priest to him, picks him up, and they go down to this guy, which is about an hour and a half from his house. And they spend a couple hours with him, and they determine that this guy does need an exorcism because he is possessed. And one of the things, again, remember, this happened, according to Robert, this happened in about 2017. Right. So one of the determining factors, according to Robert, is that the Kevin/demon looked at him and said, told him, I'm going to tell you things that nobody knows, and this and that, and all these secrets. And one of the things is that he told him that Robert was adopted. And Robert makes a big deal of this, like, oh, I am adopted, and no one could have known that. How could Kevin know that? It's not on my Facebook. It's nowhere. Yeah. Actually, it is. It is. Again, when you spend the time like I do, when you're completely OCD, you start scrolling through. And I was like, all right, well, I have a time frame. I have 2017, so I scrolled through his timeline to 2017 and started working backwards. And in 2015, there is a big post, because it's like National Adoption Day. And he talks about being adopted by his aunt and uncle, and that he's so grateful, and this is awesome. And he makes a big deal of it. So it wouldn't be too hard in 2017 to look on Facebook, look this guy up real quick and say, oh, look, he's celebrating National Adoption Day. He was adopted. I mean, I found it within 5 minutes.
Right.
And I mean, that was easy. And he talks about it constantly. So, yes, there is a way you could find that. That's not a big secret. Everybody knows. Everybody. So, continuing with the story, I hope I'm not boring everyone. But
No,
'cause
not me anyway.
I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he continues
Yeah,
with the
we got
story.
like there's 26 people watching.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So they decide that he does need an exorcism, but they can't do it in the house. And for some reason, they won't go back to Peoria. They decide to send the paperwork on to the Archdiocese of Chicago, where the bishop there, shut up, Kim, was watching it or approved it. He saw it, he approved it, and said, yes, he needs an exorcism. Bring him up. So, next thing you know, they are in Chicago at La Loyola.
Yeah.
Oh my God. La Loyola Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. They got really weird names out there.
I know.
So they go there. Apparently, they had all kinds of tests done. And the whole time, the whole story. So this takes up like 2 hours. He's he's talking about how there's psychologists there and psychiatrists, and if he was psychiatrically ill, they would have figured it out. And I'm thinking in my head, you're the fucking psychologist.
Right.
Why aren't you figuring this out?
Right.
You're licensed in 12, 15, 28, 67 states.
I know.
Douchebag. Why aren't you figuring out? You're the forensic psychologist. Where's your skills, bitch? So he gets there. They go to a Jesuit monastery, which is attached to this medical center. And this is where we really get him. I think everyone's going to like this.
Oh, yeah, this is... Yeah,
he says that we're there. We have a bunch of priests and this and that. And then Father Michael is the main exorcist. And he stops. And I thought he was just like, that's it. Because you say Father Michael, it's like, all right, Michael's a common name.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? But no. He goes, you know who Father Michael is, right? He's the one that was on Zach Bagans' The Demon House documentary. So he says this every time. So
and you're like,
no mistake.
That's a bingo.
I know Father Michael. This is great. Happy day. So I called Father Michael, and he is he's not in Peoria. He's in Indiana, right outside of Gary, Indiana. So I called Father Michael, and I spoke to him. Very nice gentleman. I mean, very soft-spoken, very nice. I told him why I was calling and what I was doing, because I don't anytime I call like that, I never like hide the details, because it's going to come out. I'm going to write an article. Like, I don't want them pissed at me. So I told him why, and he's like, my first question to him as soon as he came on was, hey, I'm investigating this gentleman named Robert Riggy, who's a friend of yours. So I was wondering what you could tell me about him. And no lie, he's like, who? And I explained it again. He's like, I don't know this gentleman at all.
And if you do two intense exorcisms, like what he
did two with this
right, you
guy.
wouldn't forget. You wouldn't first of all, you wouldn't forget him.
And he also says during other interviews, every time he retells this, he goes into how him and Father Michael are very, very good friends.
Right.
They've known each other for a long time. They know each other, they're great friends. Father Michael has no idea who he is. So I explained the whole thing about the exorcisms and stuff. And I told him I can send him a link to the interview so he can listen to it. And he's, yes, please, I'll listen to it tonight. And he called me the next morning and he verified. He's like, yep, I am the person that he's talking about. No, I have never met this gentleman. I have no idea who he is. I have never done an exorcism on a man named Kevin. And he's like, if I did, there is no way I would do an exorcism outside of my church. So the whole thing about either going to his house, which he wasn't part of, but going to Chicago, he's like, no, that wouldn't happen. That it just doesn't happen. He further added that there were a few things that Mr. Riggy got right about the process of the exorcism, but these details were easily looked up.
Right.
It wasn't something that was confidential or anything like that. But he's also said that he got a lot wrong, like completely wrong, and that he was not a part of the exorcism. There was a lot of things that he said, and I won't get into it because it's a little more weird and kind of disgusting. But he's like, no, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. So this is destroyed. This is completely destroyed.
Yep.
Because Father Michael was the star of both his exorcisms. So yeah. Hey, I'm the only one that doesn't know who Father Michael. So yeah, that and there's more to that story. I have a call in. I have a call into the Archdiocese of Chicago. I'm waiting. I actually have 2 calls in. I left messages. I'm waiting. Hopefully someone will call me back. I doubt it. But I did call the Diocese of Peoria, his home parish, because he claims that he contacted them first, and they're the ones that filed all the paperwork to Chicago. And I got to the bishop that is there. I got his secretary. I talked to her. I left the message the first time, and I spoke to her 2 days ago. And she said that the bishop does have my number and all the information, and he is looking into it and will get back to me. So there you go. They're scaring me. No. So yeah, that's I think that's enough detail that we have for that.
Yeah.
I'm
trying
so
to
one of the Ted Bundy interview. I mean, I don't want to get into that too much because he really the main claim is that in 1980, when he was almost graduating, he was about to graduate from college.
He didn't go to.
He probably didn't go to. Yeah. He makes a claim. The most common version of this story, please note how I said that, is that he went to his department head and said, hey, I'm really interested in interviewing Ted Bundy. He's only about 50 miles from us. I'd like to go up there and interview him. The department head says, great, you're awesome because no one's had that idea before. So go ahead, do it. And Mr. Riggy says that he wrote a letter to Ted Bundy, his lawyer, and the warden of the prison at the time. And anywhere from a week to several weeks later, depending on the interview, he got responses back from all 3 saying, yes, it was approved. He can come out there and interview.
On mine, he only got response back from 2.
Okay. There you go. There's a problem with that because Ted represented himself. He started out with a lawyer, but then that lawyer was kind of fired and put to an assistant position. So Ted always represented himself, especially in 1980, because he received this, I think January of 1980 is when he received his second death sentence. Yeah, so he was already representing himself. So there was no need to contact a lawyer. And just a side note here, I did contact the prison and spoke with the assistant warden. But unfortunately, they don't have any records from the time. So they couldn't tell me if somebody did visit them or not. And if so, what guidelines would be put in place for such visitors.
Didn't we find out, or was I dreaming, that only 1 or 2 people actually, it's been documented that only 2 people actually ever interviewed him, or 1 or 2?
So there was a journalist that went in and interviewed him, but he went undercover as part of the defense team. Because if they knew he was just a reporter, he would not be allowed to record. He wouldn't have gained admission. But there's over 100, either 100 hours or 100 tapes, I'm not sure which, of recorded interview with Ted Bundy, with this journalist. So he was able to get in and have a recorder, not hidden, but out, and actually record everything. Mr. Riggy has this stipulation, which is convenient for him, was that when all 3 wrote back to him, the only stipulation they had was that he could not take any notes and couldn't record anything. So that fits in, beautifully with his plan,
right,
of not having to show any evidence,
right.
Except for the letters that he claims that he got back, which we still haven't seen.
And he said he has them. I asked, I said, you have them? And he said, yeah. He's like, I just keep them I keep them under or in some storage thing because
he's full of shit.
yeah, because it didn't stop at Ted Bundy. Then on another podcast I was listening to, it was Jeffrey Dahmer, the son of Sam, the BTK killer.
Yeah,
And
it grew. It grew
yeah,
each time he told
he
it.
was pen pals with all these serial killers.
Because he even mentions Ed Gein, and
Yeah.
he says when the story starts developing, he asked Ted Bundy who his mentor was, and Ted says Ed Gein, and then interviews after that, Ed Gein now gets into this fold of receiving letters. Robert's now a pen pal with Ed Gein, so it evolves. His story evolves over time depending on what dramatic thing or what really cool thing to him can be incorporated into his story and impress the next interviewer.
Right.
So then he actually talks about when it's his idea that he takes one other male psychologist and 3 female psychologists with him, and that's the most popular story.
Greg, I'll let you know about that one in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to star that so we can go back to that.
And I'm not going to get into the details of that story because that's where he gets into some weird sexual components concerning one of the psychologists, or one of the female psychologists.
Oh yeah.
And he's just a piece of shit. That's my opinion.
Yes.
But when we go back, and again, looking, let me find my timeline here so I can get this right. I go back into another interview, and
I'm wrong with Kim.
he changes the ratio. So instead of it's his idea, he goes to the department head, and then he brings along 1 male psychologist and 3 females to go interview Ted. It then changes in an earlier retelling that the department head came to him and asked if he would like to go interview Ted Bundy. And then it's 3 males and 2 females that go with him.
I'm the same way, JD. That's why it is weird.
Like a real pervert. I would agree.
Go ahead. Sorry, Kenny.
It's all right. And in that earlier version too, I guess Ted, during the interview, Mr. Riggy says something about Ted looks at him and says, "I know who you are and what you can do," implying that he knows that he's psychic and a medium. And after saying that, he goes outside, and Riggy's department head comes up to him and says, "How does he know what you can do? Have you written to him before we came here?" And in the interview, Riggy says, "No, I've never written to him ever." So completely different stories. So completely different. I mean, the same.
Which is crazy because his big thing was that he has letters from him.
Yes, he has letters from everyone, but he won't show them. So far, I haven't seen them at all. So that's really all I want to touch on with the Ted Bundy interview, because it's just he gets into.
Well, how about he said he was. Oh, are you putting the execution in with this, or is that a separate Ted Bundy thing?
I didn't even touch on that because there was honestly the article that I have and it's ready to go. I was waiting on the archdiocese to get back to me. I was really hoping to include. I don't know if they will or not. I'm going to give them till Friday, but the article is way, way long. So there's so much detail. It's like 3 times as long as any article I've written. So I've had to kind of, why not produce
because you don't have them.
It doesn't have them.
That's why
it's so easy for me to say something like, "Oh, well, I have a letter from Harry Houdini, and it's really cool, and I'm awesome because of that." But I don't have to show you.
Yeah. Well, so did you say you were going to touch on the execution thing, or you're not?
I wasn't in my article, but I mean, we can touch on it a little bit if you want to.
Well, I just want to say that he also put in that he was invited to and went to the execution of Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Just because he asked.
He didn't.
And that,
Because
There
he
was
wasn't
actually
pen
a
pals with
term.
him. He didn't go interview him. None of that stuff took place. So he acted like they were like BFFs.
If you, yeah, he
He
does.
did.
He does. He makes that, like, when he goes to the execution and he sees him, he makes it sound like a casual conversation that Ted walks up and says, "Hey, Robert,"
Yeah.
and says all and addressing him by first name all the time, which no, he would not have had any contact with him.
Mhm. And he
Um,
also said that he would tell him like about all the why he would kill people and what he would
Right.
do and this that. But Ted Bundy never really admitted to doing anything criminal until 3 days before his execution.
Yeah.
So that's not true.
Okay.
All right.
I just man, I hate this guy.
There's so much. It's because there's so much.
I do. All right. So the last thing I want to touch on, I think, here is, let me see, the interview. I think that's almost it. There's just one little thing.
Well,
that I
we
want
can
to
say
touch
what we found. The criminal
on. Yeah.
record.
All right. So
That's
the last
that's
little thing.
public.
The last little thing is that he sent personal messages to you. And in one of those messages, he said that next year he's going out to like Scotland and stuff, and he's been invited to speak at a university in Edinburgh on the subject of parapsychology because of his background. And this is another thing. So if you look, and you know what? If I have it, let me see if I can bring this up, and you can show,
Okay.
you can share the screen. Let me see. Do I have it on here? I don't know if I do. I probably don't. When he writes a bio, because I've seen his bio in several places,
Mhm.
and he writes it, an educated person would know a little bit about grammar, a little bit about how to write, how to end a sentence, this little dot that's called a period. But when he writes a bio for himself, it's awful. It's so awful. Where I'm trying to find, I had screenshots, but I think I have it on my laptop.
Well, while you're looking, Kim asked what was his excuse. His excuse, he avoided people for about a week and a half. He blocked anybody that confronted him. That was me. I was the first person to confront him, and he blocked me. And then when he started to talk to a couple of groups that I guess he felt, he could trust or whatever, or a podcast, people that were in podcasts, he said that I was lying and I was a, what do they call it, a troll? He
You're
said
a
I was
troll.
a troll and I was just hating on him. And so he kind of pulled that story for a little bit. And then he said about, what else did he say? And then his last thing that he said was that he has an attorney and he can't talk about it. And that's, again, is how somebody like this gets out of producing anything.
All right. So if you guys can see this, this is a bio that he wrote. And
Show me
just
the-
reading this hurts my head.
What if
My
I do
name
that?
is Robert Riggy. I have a master's degree in forensic psychology and clinical social work from the University of Florida. I am licensed to practice within the realm and criteria set by each particular state in the realm of forensic psychology and clinical social work. I am also a psychic medium. My first experience is when I was 4. I will be 67 in November, and this is it. There's no fucking periods here. It drives me crazy. Oh my God. This is not an educated person. This is not a person that's been a criminal profiler. I can't talk. I'm so angry with him for 35 years that you have to write case files. You have to write reports. Being a forensic psychologist, that is psychology and the law. You would be an expert witness in court. You would have to speak properly. You would have to file case reports. This is not a sign of an educated person. It's just not. And it just pisses me off that this kind of stuff is out there and people buy it so easily. So
Right.
easily.
Yep.
I don't
Again,
think
he
there's no
didn't
period
say
in here.
he didn't say all this stuff on my show. if you could like how Kenny was saying, we both were listening to at nauseum. I was listening
Right.
to podcast upon podcast upon podcast and writing stuff down, and because Kenny was like, "This is what you got to do." So I was like, "Okay." So, and then at one point I said, I messaged Kenny. I go, why do I feel like you're Mr. Miyagi? And I'm like, Danielson. That was so cool.
Because that's the way it is. And look, there was only one period at the
Oh,
end.
I'm sorry. You were.
That's okay. There's
That's
this right here. That's the only period.
wow.
Any other punctuation, these are commas. So that's the longest running sentence. I think somebody said that, like, longest running sentence ever. Yes, Tom, it is.
Mhm.
All right, that's good. I'm good with that. All right. But yeah, I mean, that was the good part, where this was a good learning experience. I mean, because there's so many ways to look up people. And one of the things I preach when I do lectures and stuff is tell everyone, you are not as private as you think you are. Nowhere near. It's with a few clicks and the right subscriptions, I can get all your residences, I can get criminal history, I can get your assets, all this information about you. And then if I really get interested, there's other places I can dig and really get into it. And I mean, if I have hours, if I got a weekend with nothing planned, you are fucked. Seriously. I mean, it's just, if I'm motivated to do it, and it's not just me. I want to make that clear. I'm not trying to say I'm awesome at this, but
No, you're awesome at this.
Investigators that have done this enough, we learn the tricks, and there's other people out there that I've learned from that can do this and that are much better than I am.
I want to touch on this really quick because through this process, like so Dover Paratech, thank you so much. And I'll get to your question, because that was a good question up there. They say, I blame the people that buy this BS as much as the person making the claim. And I can understand that coming from not interviewing him. And I might be just saying it because I was one of those interviews. However, in my interview, I felt something was off. So I think that's kind of like, he continued to do interviews before we actually were able to come out with stuff. But I, again, was trying to be proactive and going on these podcasts and typing questions, trying to get these hosts to ask certain questions so that they would get the red flag. And a lot of times they didn't pick up on it, not their fault. They were just kind of trusting, and we all learned a lesson from it for sure. But some people did feel really bad about themselves because they didn't do what they thought. I mean, I had to talk to a couple of people that hosted some of the shows for like a couple of times because they really were upset that this fell through their cracks, like they didn't, so I don't want to put anybody down because they believed him, but
it's a hard lesson. And I agree for the most part with Dover Paratech here. I mean,
as I said, I understand.
Yeah, that buy it and promote it. Because I know I get shit because I'm always skeptical about things. I always have some doubt.
No, but
you know what? That it covers my ass. That's exactly what it is, because I'm not going to just take a claim at face value. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to learn that. It's hard to look at like, oh, this guy appeared here and they were on radio stations. And of course, if they're on a radio station, I mean, shit, they had to do some kind of check, right? So it must be okay. It's easy to fall into that. And especially with the last 2 years, so many people have gotten into online podcasting or live streams. Everyone's doing it, and it's exciting. It's fun. You get to talk to people. You get to interact with everyone.
2017. Just saying.
Okay, brag.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you think about it, the community, okay, the paranormal community, like everybody that investigates and stuff like that, they're the type of people that do believe in stuff that I mean, Dover Tech's like, oh, okay, I can't believe you believe this, but there's people that believe that a ghost box is they're getting words from an actual spirit from and I don't mean any disrespect. I just am saying I don't believe in ghost boxes. So for me,
what do you listen to a radio for? Stop listening to broken radios, people. Come on.
So
Radio.
I don't believe it,
No.
I don't believe in that. So, but this is the type of a community we are. Like I do believe in spirits, but I don't believe that a ghost box we're communicating through a ghost box. But there are people that swear by them.
Right. And
So
it really depends on your belief. I mean, you can get sucked into it. There's plenty of people that will listen to there. I mean, look at people like Sylvia Brown.
right.
She had a huge following,
Yep.
and she was the biggest piece of shit ever.
Right.
But she still had a huge following.
Right. And also, I mean, I think the only thing people are really at fault because every podcast, again, this wasn't just all this information didn't come from one podcast. This came
Right.
from like, would you say 30?
I had 3 dozen that I listened to, and I listened
36?
to them over and over again.
Yeah. So all this information is coming from different podcasts. So when you're interviewing him, you're not getting all of this because if all of this was said in one podcast, yes, I would blame the person because it's so crazy.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 27 podcasts I listened to.
Did Christopher St. Michael do that on the first one? Did he say like everything on one? Is that his name?
Oh, yeah. Christopher?
St. Michael.
No, it's not
Christopher St. Michael.
No, what's his name? Wait, that's not Christopher isn't his first name.
St. Michael.
Oh my goodness. Now you're
Anyway, so early on in like I don't even know when that podcast was, to be honest with you. I had him on, and I didn't even know Kenny was investigating him after my show. I had no idea. And I took his word for it.
Constantine. That's it.
Constantine St. Michael or something,
Yeah.
right? That's not even his real name, but
No.
and after I learned that, then I guess my spidey senses went up a little bit. Or are you laughing at Dover?
Yeah, I'm laughing at Raymond. That's a good one. Cough, cough. John Edwards, yes,
I know.
and Dover, yes. I agree, Dover, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, like all of the stuff after, like on my show, he only talked about Ted Bundy.
But yeah, Constantine was another case where he made some really extraordinary claims.
Yeah,
And that came about because I was there. I talked to him. That was the first time I met him at an event, and we were talking, and he made these claims. And it was where he was in his reputation, I guess at the time, was a good reflection of the paranormal community and their ability to take things at face value. And I'm speaking in stereotypes here, so don't get all pissy if this is you, because if it is, maybe you should rethink how you look at things. But this guy was going around with a story. He was there as not a speaker, but like as a special guest, and he had this background, and he was promoting himself. And he spoke to me because he didn't know me from anyone else. We just started talking because he happened to be standing next to me, and he gave this story as if I was an audience that was ready to just believe whatever came out of his mouth. And it got tense because he would say that like he worked on a cold case that had to be specially opened or reopened by the Pennsylvania Attorney General. And I was like, that's not right.
And this is the thing. I did learn something from that because one of the things that became a reflect, like one of the things that, like when I was interviewing him and he said the 35 years of working for the Attorney General, I was like, ding! I was like, wait a minute. Constantine St. Michael said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like almost the same thing. You know what I mean? So, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, it's just this whole thing.
I'm just saying, I feel like if you're going to blame me or anybody else that, did podcasts and didn't pick up on it, everybody makes mistakes, clearly, but I mean, I know I was guilty of just being a trusting person and not, like I said, I did have the red flags because I went through this early on, when I found out Kenny, and he told me everything, and right when me and Kenny talked about it, then he just like disappeared. He was off of Facebook. He was off of everything. Like I couldn't even couldn't even.
So, this is a case where blame is a very difficult word to accept. But so with you, when you had him on, yes, to put it bluntly, yes, it was on you that you didn't check up on him.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
you as long as you own it, hey,
Yeah.
you're learning from it. It was a mistake. You're learning from it because you didn't get a good feeling during the show, and immediately afterward, you reached out, and we started talking about this. So you're trying to fix that mistake,
Right.
which is that's fine. I applaud that.
Hmm.
It's other people that will, like the one host that I contacted, and
Oh yeah.
their excuse was, I'm just a one man show. That's just bullshit. Especially because it was a podcast that was sponsored. So, I mean, they get paid pretty good to do the podcast. You can take 10 minutes and look someone up.
Right. Which
But
and like this, like, I can't believe they wouldn't look it up.
But now, you know what? Now, this is the change. I think now you have that burned, like seared into your brain and soul.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
Me,
Now I'm going
1000%,
to, now I'm going to check every fucking guest that comes on my show.
Yep.
Because now you don't want to be in the spot where you were.
Right.
And some of these other podcasts, even though we contact them and they might feel bad, or even Mr. I'm a one man show, he probably doesn't. He's not going to take it down. He's not going to check his guests. He's going to continue to do what he's been doing.
Right.
I have no doubt of that. I mean, I hope he proves me wrong. I really do, but I don't think he's going to. And that's the problem. That's the problem. That is part of the fear mongering. That is promoting false beliefs, false people. Because what if a parent hears his interview on your show and says, "Oh, this sounds like a great guy. My kid thinks they see ghosts or something, so I'm going to call him and have him come out to my house and stay here for a couple days." Because that situation, it might be far-fetched, but it also might happen.
And it's scary to some people, whether
it's scary.
It's scary to parents when they're, when their children are going through something, even if it is depression, but then you don't know what's going on. Right. So
yeah,
the fact that you're not a psychologist or a social worker, I mean, you can't say that's what you are. And then you're going in there, and
if there is something, if your child has some kind of condition, illness, mental issue, then you need to go to a professional, an actual licensed professional, not someone that just claims to be, but won't offer any proof. And I also want to make this clear too. I've called him 3 times. So he gives his number out, his phone number out on every show. And he says he's an open book. You can call him anytime, that he will get back to you. If he doesn't answer the phone, he'll get back to you in a couple hours. But his life is an open book. He doesn't hide anything. I've called him 3 fucking times and left messages. Phone number, name, why I'm calling. I have some questions. Please call me back. Nothing. It's been weeks.
And when I confronted him, he just blocked me. And I said, just show me something, show me proof, and I will publicly apologize to you and to anybody else that I drug into this. I said, I will publicly apologize. I said, or just go away. Get out of this. Like, just leave, or tell everybody what you did and what you are, or I will.
This guy reminds me of of another one, and Kim's gonna love this. Mr. Roundtree.
Somebody brought that up earlier. Sounds like Roundtree.
So I was also part of that years ago, and he's another one. He brought up that he had a PhD in particle physics, and that he was a Native American shaman, and that he was a war hero. He had these medals, and he was in Vietnam. And all of it was false. When you start digging, you start uncovering. And I think these and this might be like an age bias here, but I think the older people which all three, I mean, Riggy, Roundtree, and then Constantine, older gentlemen that don't realize how much you can look up online. You mean
Tom?
his show is on Talking?
Yeah, I interviewed him January 17th. I did not do any background check on him. It wasn't until after my show that I started looking into him. So I didn't hear that prior.
December. Do I have that podcast? Maybe.
I don't know. He was supposed to come on my show, I think originally November or December. I can't remember what the first date was, and then he had to cancel it, he said. Hi, April.
Yeah. So all these people, I mean, the bottom line really is if you're going to invite someone out to your event or have them on to your show or even a special guest at something, just check up on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like you're crossing a line. You're not, because if you're the person in charge of this, then it's up to you to make sure you're putting forth the best information, the best people, and legitimate people. And if you don't bother and you just let it go, then you are just as wrong as they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, maybe not just as wrong, but you're being ignorant of the situation. You're not doing your job. And I mean, so many of us call ourselves paranormal investigators, and that it's right in the title, investigator. Mm-hmm. Yep. Do it. Everyone. I background check everyone.
So can I just say, I want to bring up the legal part that is public information. And I wish there were more people on. However, we Googled, so Shadow Zone Paranormal was another key part of this investigation. I just want to give them a shout out. Eldon and Brian, they really helped out a lot with this too, getting some information, you know. So we looked up the Peoria, I can't say where he lives. Peoria, Illinois court, or, you know, judicial, whatever you want to say. And I had to give that link to a couple of podcasts that had him on because they weren't taking my word for it. So I said, look it up yourself. Here it is. Go to this website, look up yourself. Anyway, there were 7 criminal, or you would click on the criminal or traffic, put his name in, and there were, I believe, 6 or 7.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in Illinois, 1 in Iowa.
So Iowa, he was a fugitive. One of those, I think the Iowa one was, he was a fugitive from Iowa, and they caught up with him in Peoria. But he has 2 accounts, and I'm not looking at it. But 2 accounts, I think, of one had 13 different. I might be using the wrong wording.
Basically, if you can go to Illinois and look up Illinois court cases and jail time for anyone, and there's public records. And when you do it and type in his name, it comes up, and you also check by birth date. That confirms that it's him. Birth, full name, first, middle, last, and birth date, and it's him. And there's several convictions. There's some for theft. There's some for failure to appear. There's false statement to obtain credit.
That was one of them. That he went to jail, I think, for 3 months, because that was after his 3 years.
Theft. There's one for theft for 3 months, and there's one for false statement for 3 months. But there's stuff there that you can go and check, and that's the point. You can go and check this yourself. And out of the 6, and this is really important because he's denied this being his record, 4 of the convictions, you can click on the link that's provided on the case file, and it comes up with a mugshot. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but it's just funny because so denying all this, and there's 4 pictures of him that I
When
actually
he was
put
arrested.
all side by side
Yeah.
and compared and made sure you're like, yeah, same nose, same eyebrows, eyes, everything. It's him. I mean,
Yeah.
it's him through the
He's
years.
denying. He's denying. He said the pictures are fake.
But the big thing with this, and it's not, I don't want to bring it up just to bring it up because not everyone is perfect. But the problem is these arrests happen and convictions happen between 92 and 2002. All in Iowa. Well, one in Iowa, but the rest are in Illinois, where he was supposed to be living in Florida and working as a criminal profiler for 35 years for the Attorney General and the FBI.
Right.
So I have a real big problem with that.
Mhm.
And I don't think that jives. Plus, there's other interesting things that I just there's so much
There's so much.
that it's hard to. There was one interview that he gave where he's where is it? It's on a radio station, and he's talking because he's got a friend with him, a female friend, and they're talking, and the host asked the friend, "Hey, how long have you known each other?" And they're like, "Oh, 40 years or so." And yeah, we lived together in hold on. Now I gotta make sure I get it right. Because it's amazing. They lived together in 1978, but it wasn't in Florida where he should have been because he was going to the University of Florida at that time, according to his story. But he was living in, was it Nebraska? Or, oh my goodness. You got to talk because I got to find this.
Okay. Yeah, but but some of those, it's interesting that I'm glad you said that because you said something about nobody's perfect. You know, people say, yes, that is true. People make mistakes. I am like far from anywhere of even being remotely close to perfect, but I learned from my mistakes. He clearly has not, because the charges that were on his record are fraud, and he's still doing it. So it doesn't matter, obviously he didn't learn from it back then. The jail time, the whatever he had to pay, the fines and stuff, he's still doing the same thing, just in a different way.
All right. So I got the interview was on October 19th, 2019, KZUM 89.3 radio. And the woman whose name is Lynn, that's a friend of Robert's, she says that they worked together in 1978 at Woodward State Hospital, which is in Iowa. So he should have been in Florida attending the University of Florida for a good 10 years. That's a whole different story. The whole master's degree should have taken him about 10 years to get, which he didn't. But then later on in that same interview, they're talking about being friends. And she's quoted saying, "We've even lived together at different times. When we started out, we lived in the same apartment building. And when we moved to Nebraska, he came," meaning Robert, "he came and actually lived with us for a while. I've been in Nebraska for close to 30 years. And this puts it around 1989. So all the time,
Talk to her.
I would love to find her, but that was a very fleeting interview. And unfortunately, the host of that radio station passed away like 2 years ago. So, and Robert still won't return my calls. So, but there's so much and this is a big rabbit hole.
I know.
And there's so many different directions we can go. Every direction we do go, we find discrepancies and contradictions. So again,
and you're typing this up, right? This is going to go.
So yeah, the article is actually done, except for I'm holding out just to see if the Diocese of Peoria, which is his home parish, gets back to me. And if they get back to me in a few days, by Friday is when I'm going to submit it. So it should be out next week sometime. and then it'll be online, and we can share it easily. But it doesn't go into all the details. Some of the details that we covered tonight doesn't go into all that, but the main points it does.
Right.
And it just.
Megan wants to know, has he popped up anywhere lately?
So I don't know. I mean, because I'm not friends with him on Facebook, obviously.
I'm not either. He blocked me.
So I can't. He's set his page to private as well, so I can't see any updates that he does. I haven't seen any podcast pop up
Lately. The only thing I heard, I don't know when did I text you? When was that? Somebody, one of the people that was still talking to him, and I believe they were in the UK, which is interesting because I was talking to somebody about this, and he did do some interviews in the UK early on, but I mean, our rules are different than their rules. And again, somebody probably should have looked into it, but they weren't, over there, you have to have, there was somebody telling me that you have to have like some type of a certificate, or you have to prove to open up like any type of a metaphysical store or anything like that. Like, I don't know how somebody proves any of that, but I'm going to have them on my show so you can watch if you want to watch, but opening up a school or something like that. But that's not till later. So I am going to look into that. But
did I ever finish the Edinburgh about him going to
you did not.
all right.
Did not.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, let me just this will be quick. The last thing I heard, I texted Kenny because there was a person in the UK he was still talking to as of last week, and or the week before, whenever it was. And he again was like denying the photos. He said that, and then he said he had an attorney because they said, just show me a letter, show me something, Yeah. And he said that he now has an attorney and he's not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Or show anybody anything.
I mean, I'm still waiting. I gave him my phone number. He has my phone number. I called, left it on his in his mailbox and his answering machine kind of thing, and I still haven't got a call from a lawyer. I'm waiting because I'd love to talk to him. I mean, show me the shit. I'll write a retraction. I won't publish the article if you can show me all this stuff. That's it. From his Facebook page. Yeah, that's been up there for a while. Yeah, but that's because I think you have to be friends with him to see his more updated. Because I did somebody I knew that I was hanging out with like 2 weeks ago went onto his page and they were friends, and she saw a whole bunch of stuff that I couldn't. So, so Edinburgh.
Me too, Jay. Two people asked this if he was getting money out of it. I want to say that I know of. Well, I was told that by a group. I found out a group he was with, Central Illinois Paranormal, I think was the name of the group. Off the top of my head, and they actually. He called me right back. Like, he wanted to talk, the guy that owned the group. And he said that he had to kick him out of the group because they were at a private house and they did an investigation. They did EVPs. When they listened back, the woman who her husband just passed about 3 weeks prior believed she heard her husband's voice on this recorder. I am not saying I condone the way that they investigated anything, just for the record. I'm just telling you what the story he told me. He said that she got upset, started crying. Robert walked him out of the house, or her out of the house, and was trying, consoling her. He said the next thing he knew, the next day, he was getting a call from this woman. She was so upset. She said that he walked outside with her, and in midst of her vulnerable, grieving, crying self, manages to say, okay, $40, I'll give you a reading. And now this is a private case, like a private home. Stuff is happening. She told the group leader or owner or whatever he is, that he then charged her $40 for a reading. And she found out later on that night, because she was upset, wasn't thinking, and believe me, 3 weeks after somebody passes away, your mind's not always going to be right on point. He verbatim read the obituary that was on the kitchen counter. So she demanded her money back. and got very angry and was, all this and that. And he said he had to let him go after that. He also did say on my podcast that, or on somebody's podcast, I don't know if it was mine, they all rubbed together now, that he doesn't charge, but he asks for donations, or he says he takes donations. So basically, he's taking money.
He's pretty clever with this part, which is probably one of the few things he's clever with, where he says, I don't charge for anything. I don't. He does that a lot. He says, I don't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's annoying after like 40, 50 hours of listening to a podcast. Yeah. But he says that, that's good. He doesn't charge, but if someone wants to give him something, that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. So, and if somebody, like, there was one interview, he's like, somebody gave me an envelope, and it was full of money, and I knew it was money because I felt it, but I didn't even look. I waited until I got home. So he's playing up the sympathy card where he's not charging, but if you want to give him a donation, then he'll take it.
Right.
So,
and probably because I'm thinking because he was, told about the $40 at the private case, you know what I mean? Or unless he just thought the woman would never say anything or think about it.
If you get cash donation, you don't have to claim it because you get cash. Mm-hmm. You don't have to charge. You don't have to give receipt. Nothing. He can just say, hey, if you want to just give me something, and then it's all under the table. So yeah, I mean, do we know if he's actually making money? No, we do not.
Mm-mm.
But is there a possibility? Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I even asked the group guy because he said that without me saying anything, it was interesting how he said, yes, I know him and I know him very well, and I wouldn't trust him around my kids.
Yeah.
Like he said that without,
and it's very, it's telling. I mean, and that was another thing. Like he actually told us that because we asked how, because I talked to him after you did.
Right.
And we asked where he knew Robert from. Like, how do you know him? And they worked together. They worked at a warehouse packaging tractor parts together.
When he was supposed to be criminal profiling and all this
in
other
Florida.
stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So again, we have him in Illinois in his home state working at a job unrelated to his education, alleged education, when he was supposed to be in Florida working at this high profile job. So everything, this is like a huge house of cards from like 4 or 5 decks that have crumbled all the way down.
Yeah. All right. So there's more questions, but do the Edinburgh thing, because these questions are kind of like after questions.
Okay.
I do want to say this. No, but he's claimed himself to be a shaman and a Benedictine saint.
Yes.
Those two. And went to Mother Teresa school, and Mother Teresa showed up there 3 times, and she was telepathically like talking to him like, Robert, what are you doing? You're messing up. You got to be better. You got to be better at what you're doing. My brothers and my sisters. Okay. Go ahead.
What else you got?
Jay said he's so over that. This 1000%. This is why it's why it says final finale. It's the final countdown. That's it.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm so done.
This has been weeks and weeks.
Yes, it's not. He's so nauseating, and there's so much energy. Kenny, I don't know how you do this all the time, because it was like,
honestly. So I get to the point, like I finished the article, except for that little of what I'm waiting for, but I finished it like 2 days ago, and I have not touched anything since. I come home, I watch. My wife and I we were watching BattleBots because it's an awesome show. Everyone should watch it. And then I play video games, and I don't do anything because it's a big rabbit hole, and I get burned out. So I need to take a break, a couple days where I don't do any of this. And then lots of rum helps.
Oh my God, this is great.
But I can only do like a day or two because I need to catch a power predator.
I love it.
I wish.
That would be great.
I wish I could do more on this guy, but I mean, as soon as I can send off the article and make sure that any rewrites need to be done, I'll be good.
Yeah.
As soon as legal says yes, it's approved,
Yeah.
then that's even better, and I'll be done with it. It'll be out, and then I'll move on to the next project, and,
Right.
and that's it. The next
Well-
the next Scooby-Doo adventure is what I look for. Okay, I know Kenny. So now that he has done all this legwork, what is he going to do with the? Oh, okay. So I pretty much answered it. It's in an article. It'll be published on Skeptical Inquirer online because it's much too long for the magazine. But it'll be published on their site, and then I'll be able to share it. Again, once it goes through editing and legal, and make sure everything is legit. Because they also, I mean, unlike other people, Riggy, like my stuff, my information, I have to back up everything. So it's all referenced. There's citations throughout. I think this is the most references of it, probably the only other one. Maybe, oh my God, what was the other one I did? I did a long one. I did a Demon House, Baggins Demon House. I did a thing on that, but I don't think I had anywhere near this many references. There was like 30 some references on this just for one article, which is a lot for me. Usually it's like I might break 10.
Do you have the Edinburgh thing?
The what?
Oh, look at your phone.
Oh, look at my phone. Like, what are you talking about?
I didn't want to say anything out loud.
Can you? So can I?
I didn't want to say it out loud, but in case.
I mean, oh no, yeah, no. Sorry, I can't tell. I can't talk about that part. That's I'm glad I didn't read that out loud.
I know. I'm like, no.
I'm like, what are we doing? Can I? Oh no. But yeah, that's another burner. That's a back burner thing, and we're waiting to see if that pot boils over. But there's something else in the works that I can't tell you, but it has to do with this case. And somebody touched on it a little bit earlier. That's the only hint I can give. And if it comes through, then you guys will hear about it. But if it doesn't, then you won't. There you go. That's all I could say about that. That was very cryptic and confusing. I understand, but sorry. It's okay. It's all right. It's good.
All right, so
Edinburgh. So yeah,
Edinburgh.
So Edinburgh. So he sent you a message, and it was more like bragging kind of thing, saying that he was invited to speak not at the University of Edinburgh, but at a university in Edinburgh on the subject of parapsychology. The University of Edinburgh over in the UK is the only one that deals with parapsychology in that area. So I reached out to them, and I talked to let me make sure I get her name right, because I don't want to mess it up, because she was very, very nice. So I got a response from Caroline Watt, and Caroline is the chair of parapsychology at the university. And according to her, there was only 2 speakers that speak at Edinburgh, and Riggy is not one of them. And no one has any idea who he is. She checked around at the other universities, and no one has heard of him at all. And just so I have backup on this, we do have a screenshot of the message to Taryn that is going to be included in the article, because that was just a point. It was a small point, but it's still something.
No, it's a big point.
Yeah,
it's a big point if you think about it.
Because he's making it. That's again boosting his credibility, saying that I've been invited to, and the message that he's sending you is so bad. I mean, it's just like the profile that he wrote. It's horrible. No periods. It just goes on. It's a run-on sentence. But yeah, he's padding his background, saying that he's going to speak on parapsychology because of his background, and he specifically says because he has a master's in psychology.
And he opened up his own private practice, and he's opened. He opened up a mental health clinic and on a reservation, and on an Indian reservation in South Dakota, and
he's done a lot. So, all right. So, any other questions? Because we can put this guy to bed.
I know. So I'm just going to say really quick. Do we know anything about this guy's childhood? Something obviously wrong. So I don't know I think the only thing that, and I don't even know if it was confirmed that he was adopted. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
he was adopted. He was
I
definitely
mean,
adopted.
yeah,
So and I think it was at a really young age. I'm not sure though. I don't have confirmation of that. But his adoptive parents were his aunt and uncle. So his father's brother was the one that adopted him, and I don't know why. I didn't get into that because I don't. I mean, really, the only people that can tell me that would be his his paternal parents, his adoptive parents, and him. And unfortunately for him, both parents are gone. They both passed away, and he's the only one left. So I'd have to talk to him, or he does have family, but I didn't want to bring them into it. I didn't want to reach out to his
right,
siblings because they probably don't know what's going on, and I didn't want to drag them into it.
right.
So I don't know. I mean, who knows what could have happened? Who knows? And people are just like that. You know, some people have that egotistical kind of behavior where they crave that spotlight. They need people to pay attention to them. They need
Or
to.
he just needs money.
Well, that could be it too.
You know, I mean, obviously he's a career fraud. That's what he is. And both times he's like, I don't care if he says, you know, that he doesn't, you know, it's a donation, whatever the case may be. He's still trying to get money.
Yeah.
With misrepresentation, like he's an imposter, and he's trying.
I'm not so concerned with him trying to make a few bucks out of this. I'm concerned about parents being influenced enough.
Oh yeah, no, that's my bigger. Yeah, that's my bigger thing.
To let him be mentor his kids or their kids, because who knows what I mean. The way he, and granted, yes, I do have a bias because I'm more on the skeptical side. I don't have a belief in angels and demons and ghosts and psychic powers and stuff. But besides the fact that and this is purely my opinion and gut feeling, but he creeps me out. And not many people do that. It's just something about him, and I can't describe it, but something about him is just wrong. It's off. And he almost gets that I feel that he gets that high from trying to invoke a dramatic response from you. You know, if he can shock you, it gets him some kind of pleasure. And when he's using other people's stories, such as in the case of Ted Bundy. And if you guys want to, please go ahead and listen to a podcast of his, listen to the interview, and you'll understand what we're talking about here. But when he uses the life story or details from someone else's story to make himself look good, I can't stand that when people do that. But that's his constant MO. And it's just, it's sad. It really is sad. It's, to me, again, in my opinion, it's someone that just doesn't like themselves. So they create this persona, fabricate this background to make themselves feel better about themselves and about their life.
Right.
When it's sad. I mean, if you should just be happy about being you.
Right. And I mean, even if it, even if he, I don't know. I'm like trying to like say like, well, even if you just said, okay, I came from this like really bad background. Now this is what I'm doing to make it better. I'm a medium psychic. You know,
you say when you say that like that, like I'm a medium psychic. I'm like, well, I'm a extra large psychic. How about that?
But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like one thing, but then to
medium,
because I don't know if it was you. I was talking to somebody. I don't know if it was you or if it was my aunt. Somebody when we were saying like, you know, people just automatically trust when you break down layers of possible mistrust before you even get to ask a question, you know, like the being the police officer and the whatever that cracks down one, you know, I mean, working for the police, not being a police officer, but working for the police, and all that. It breaks down one barrier that somebody might have up, and then he's a
Right.
forensic psychologist. That breaks down another barrier that somebody might have up, and so forth. And he just does all these things until he gets to the part where he wants to talk about the kids. That's what he wants to focus on. He doesn't want to focus on Ted Bundy. He wants to focus on this stuff over here, and then that's when he starts saying all that stuff.
It's very difficult to be confrontational. I'll say that it's very hard because somebody comes up and the experience or the example that you're giving is common. People will say, hey, you meet at the first time you go to an event like Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. You go there, you start meeting people. They start saying, oh, well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And you get this impression. You build up this first impression of them as like a professional or an academic or something like that. And that's your mindset. And it's not in our nature to say, oh, really? What, can you prove it?
Right.
It's not because that's confrontational. That's automatically sending out mistrust. And that's how they're going to take it. But you have to ask. You can do it in polite conversation too. Like, oh, you're a doctor? Oh, where? What kind of doctor? Oh, where do you practice? Simple questions like inquisitive questions. Find out where they work. And then you can look them up, get their business card, and
Absolutely
check it. There was one podcast, and I think you're the one that sent me the link to them, where Mr. Riggy made this claim that he was invited by the state
Chicago.
of Illinois.
Yeah, or was it Chicago?
Yeah, he was invited to speak at a joint session because Illinois was going to pass legislation to regulate ghost hunters. I'm sorry, it's just so funny.
Very funny.
Anyway, it's just so I can't be serious when I say that. But he and
then he went in and said they were going to charge $1,500.
Charge for a license to be a paranormal investigator,
right?
And the show, which was what was it, Shadow Zone podcast, the one host started looking it up and was calling them out on it, like, when is this supposed to take place? And Riggy was like, oh, it's going to happen in, and I don't have the exact date, but like May of this year, and or something like that. And the guy, you see them, he was typing away, and I'm like, he's looking it up. And he did. He's like, look, I got the schedule for it, and this is not on the schedule for the next couple months. When is it? And then Riggy started backpedaling or changing his story. And that was one of the only times I've ever seen a host like outright confront him and bring it. And especially because Riggy was talking about like being friends with the Navajo Nation and going to these other tribes. And the same guy was like, well, yeah, I was a truck driver and I delivered to them. I know a lot of those people. And he was pointing out things that Riggy was getting wrong. And I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I knew they were going to do that. That was Eldon and Brian, remember?
Yeah.
And I think that was the night. Did you pop on that night?
No, because they had him on. That's when they interviewed him.
Oh, that's right. That's
coming out. And then I was part of that show, where they brought out
afterwards. Yeah.
But are they regulating circus clowns too?
I know.
I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Like, oh yeah, we're going to regulate this hobby now. No, they're not.
Yeah, and like I said, and they were like, what? And then he was like, all right, we got to go. Like normally their show is like an hour and a half to 2 hours long. I mean, you have very long shows. They're good shows, but they're long. And it was literally 20 minutes maybe. Just trying. And he was like, all right, we got to go. Boom, and just hung up on him. And he was like, this guy's a joke.
Yeah. I like that. Greg's question there. I like that.
Yeah.
Houdini probably would not bother with this guy. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of Houdini. I have a lot of his. I have all of his books. And I followed his career because I do a lot of the stuff that he does. But Houdini went after big name psychics that held seances. And he basically had a team of investigators himself, one of which was Rose Mackenberg, which is one of my idols. If you don't know who she is, please look her up. Great story. but she would go ahead of his shows, his national shows, about 10 days to 2 weeks. And she would go undercover, dressed in costume, attend seances as like a widow or an investment banker or something like that, and attend seances. And she was taught by Houdini how to do all these tricks. So she would go in, observe, learn how they were doing it, and get, she would interview them, get quotes, write down all the notes about what they said, who they contacted, like who the psychics and would read for, especially like politicians and stuff like that. And she would report back to Houdini. And then when Houdini would come into that city, half of his show, the first half was his escape artist, which was, he was the world's greatest escape artist.
I never knew this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I
This
never
whole thing,
knew this.
oh
I never knew it.
So he would do, the first part of the show was his tricks, his escapes, because he was known. I mean, he was the handcuff king.
How come I'm just finding out about this?
Because we need to hang out more.
No, but why didn't that come up anywhere?
Because this is more on the skeptical side, not on more the paranormal side.
But was he was the skeptical though? Why wouldn't they bring that up that he did that?
Why
like, I never read that anywhere.
You have to read up. So basically the second half of his show, he would recreate the entire seance and show people how it was done, and then offer a reward if anyone could come up and prove him wrong or show him something that he couldn't replicate. But Houdini had he was really big into this. When his mom passed, he was very close with his mom. Very close. I mean, his wife and his mom were the two people he loved the most in this world. So when his mom passed, he was really, it hit him hard. And he went searching legitimately for someone that could contact her. He was hoping to find someone that really could. But because of his training, because of what he knew, every time he went to a psychic or a medium, it was tricks that he recognized immediately, and he could stop. He could actually block all the tricks. I mean, he was really good. And then he went on pretty much a crusade doing this, exposing fake psychics. He was in DC. He was in because there was a fortune telling law, anti-fortune telling law that came up in DC back in like 1924, I think. And he was in court, Supreme Court in DC, fighting to get that passed. And arguing, and it was a courtroom erupted. It's a cool case. But but he had one of his books, A Magician Among the Spirits, is a really good read. It's a really good read. It's his quest to
was that him? He wrote it, or
he wrote it? Yeah, he wrote it. And it's not so much of like pointing a finger and going, ha, 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 I caught you. He actually goes out and talks. He meets with a lot of these psychics and other magicians, spiritualists, and talks to them and tries to figure out what they're doing, but also has conversations with them. But he is very blunt. And I love the man. I wish I could have met him.
Was that you in a past life?
Yeah. I doubt it. I can't escape anything.
I can't believe I didn't know about this.
There's so much. And this is part of when you get into more skeptical literature, you start reading about it and realizing what he did, James Randi, Ray Hyman. There's a lot of people out there that have done a lot of work, and it's good work. It's good work to expand your knowledge base.
Yeah. Did he ultimately believe in psychics at all?
No.
So he never found one that ever impressed
he wanted
him.
to. He really wanted to, and that's the misconception.
It sounds like you, Kenny.
I mean, he really wanted to. So him and Conan Doyle, the writer of Sherlock Holmes, they had a very rocky friendship, which fell apart because Conan Doyle's wife did a reading, claimed to be psychic, and did a reading for Houdini, and that's when their relationship fell apart because apparently Houdini's mother, who didn't speak a word of English, was fluently speaking English through the Conan Doyle's wife, and said a lot of things, mostly with a Catholic slant, and he was Jewish. So there were a lot of problems, but awesome. I mean, he did good work. He was very blunt. He was very in your face. You know, he didn't pull punches. He told you exactly what he thought. And most people took this for he just hated psychics. And he didn't just hate psychics. He hated fake people.
It's like Kenny is
I do.
reincarnated.
I mean, I wish I could claim that. I mean, he's really good. You know, but I've learned a lot from reading his material. And just the tricks. I have books on, like, he wrote about his tricks, about his life, and even busting out of handcuffs. I mean, there was no set of handcuffs he could not get out of. Amazing kid, and all self-taught.
It's so crazy.
Amazing man.
And then he winds up passing from his appendix, right? Was it his appendix?
That's the story. His appendix burst on stage, and he collapsed on stage, but he got up, finished the show.
Yeah, I heard that.
And then he died at the hospital.
Wow.
But yeah, he should have gone to the hospital. But he was a showman. He was a showman first, and that's evident from anything that you read about his shows. He did all public displays of hey, let's do an escape hanging from a crane outside in Times Square, you know, stuff like that. And I mean, it was amazing, the stuff that he did, but he was a showman. He was definitely a showman. He knew how to get attention. He knew how to create buzz about what he was doing. And James Randi, the amazing Randi, who was another magician who just passed away a few years ago, same way. I mean, he was a showman, and James Randi was like the father of skepticism. Really, really nice guy. I mean, he really harsh on TV. When you see him on TV, he's very direct, saying things. Very direct, you know, straight line. You know, we tested your psychic abilities, and you failed this many times, and you passed this many times. So obviously, you failed 100 times, but you only got 2 guesses right. So we don't think you're psychic. Next, and he's not being mean. He's just being direct. But I knew him personally. I got to know him personally, and very sweet man, very, very sweet man. And I'm lucky to have gotten to meet him and hang out with him a little bit. So,
I don't know. I've never heard this. Wait, I feel like
he was going to return as a ghost 1 year. So Houdini had a secret code with his wife, and that if he could find a way to come back, he would. That was his proof. He would give this secret code. And they held seances every Halloween, and I think she did it for 10 years until she finally was like, there's no sign. He's gone. I'm going to let him rest. But the places like the Magic Castle, they continue to do it. There's also a Houdini museum here in Pennsylvania, in Scranton, I believe. And it's run by Dorothy Dietrich, who was called the female Houdini. Many, many, many years ago, but she continues this museum, and she holds a seance every Halloween too. And we've been invited up because I went up there. I've met her. I've talked to her a bunch of times, and she's invited me up. But it's my wife's birthday, so it always conflicts.
I'll go in your place, Kenny. I'm gonna send my assistant. I'm gonna send my Daniel's son up there.
One of these times, we're gonna get up there for her birthday and just do a Houdini seance, because I think that would be fun.
That would be cool.
I did participate in one in Vegas. My friend Mark Edward, who's a mentalist, very famous mentalist actually. He did one when we were out there for a science conference. So we were in the chapel, a big chapel of the casino that we were staying at, and we were there at midnight and did the whole Houdini seance. So that was actually fun to take part in.
Was it?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Why is this
thing to get you a better base?
Oh my God.
You have like one of those little stands with the weighted base. Yeah. Means it's out too far.
It's out too far? Because I had him in. Should I push him out further?
I don't know. We'll look after the show.
Okay.
We'll see if we can fix you.
I know.
Ugh.
Before I'm going on, this why it took me so long. I was like, I just got a light and I got a microphone. And he's like, look at you. I'm like, I know, right? It only took
Dude,
me like
getting
5
all
years.
professional and shit. You got an opening video with cool music.
5 years. 5 years. It
Yeah.
only took me 5 years to
There
get
you
a
go.
microphone.
That's all right. Good. Better than late than
Anyway,
never.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
No, I want to say thank you also for helping me and being patient with me and teaching me and helping me to, how to do all this and all the time that you spent on it as well, because it meant a lot to me, for the feelings I was getting and what I felt, just wasn't right. And you also validated for me that I need to listen to my gut instincts a little bit more, maybe, even if I wind up being wrong, if I have a gut instinct, I
fine.
should probably,
Fine. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I get a feeling about something. I'm like, yeah, let me check it out. And,
Yeah.
10 minutes, an hour later, I'm like, all right, well, everything does check out. All right. I
yeah,
was wrong.
Yeah.
No big deal. And,
Mhm.
and that's why this is a little tip here. That's why I don't really say anything until I'm pretty much finished, because I don't want to put something out there before I know.
Right.
Like I can have an opinion about something, but if we're going to actually talk about a certain person or a place or an event, I want to have all my information. So I
Right.
usually keep quiet about any article that I'm writing until it publishes, because then I'm done. All my references have been checked. It's been checked by other people. I'm good. So we're good to go. But until then, I don't talk about it. And it's good practice. It's good practice, because you could say the wrong thing. You could have a gut feeling and be like, you know what? I don't fucking like that guy. There's something wrong
Right.
with that guy. He's
Right,
bad
right, right.
news. He bad news. And then an hour later, you find out you were wrong. You already put it out there,
Yep.
and you
Well,
already
that's
influence people.
kind of what happened
Hey,
with
Dave.
the show, right? I
The
mean,
what?
I had him on my show.
Yeah.
I was having this gut instinct, and then after the fact,
Right. Right. And you followed up with it, and we learned a lot of stuff.
what?
And you got new skills. You got new skills to look up people later on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I what?
Paint the fence. Paint the fence.
Listen, Ray,
Up,
the mayor of
down.
Gettysburg doesn't do that. Okay, somebody else paints the fence.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, Dave. I invited Dave. I was hoping he was going to be on. He's just showing up now, though.
Both my 3 tortured souls boys are here.
I
It's
know. I
awesome.
love it. I invited them all, so I was hoping they
Good.
were.
Good.
But thank you
You're welcome.
for again. No, I really, because I know I was doing it probably not as in depth as you were, as much. You know what I mean? But I was doing it with you, and it's my first.
OCD.
Yeah,
OCD.
I'm sure after the next couple of ones, that's you know what I mean. Like as I'm doing it more and stuff, like but it was nauseating for me.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, this is stuff even at work. Like my work day was listening to all these podcasts. So for 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, I just kept listening over and over and over again. And I have a little notebook. It's actually downstairs, but it's like half the size of this notebook that I keep in my back pocket. And whenever a detail comes up or quote, pause, take that out, write it down, timestamp. This is being an investigator. This is what it means. Taking notes of everything,
right.
everything, phone numbers, date and time you call somebody,
Yep.
when they call you back, write it down. So you can go back and I can easily, like this show, I was able to do with all the details because I have pages and pages of notes up on the screen here with everything there. So I could find exactly what, and I gave out podcasts, like exact dates and the names because of that detail. And if more people do it, the less work I got to do. That's what it comes down to. I love sharing what I know. And I love seeing people progress and become better at what they're doing. And if I can help with that, I'm all for it. Because again, the more you can do, the less I have to do. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just like, oh, well, now I can call
No,
Tara and be like, hey,
I
Tara,
wouldn't.
you know,
Right.
about this? And
1000% agree.
yeah,
I 1000% agree. Did you see what Megan said?
I think
We
we
need
need
to get, we need to, so the girls, I don't know if you saw it, but the girls got me, I call them doobie gifts because it was kind of like just a pick me up.
Okay.
But they literally went above and beyond. My peaches went above and beyond. And I still, when I think about it, I cry. I can't watch the video without crying. I was totally,
Crying means drama.
shut up.
Do it. Cry. Oh, that's another thing we didn't touch on.
Oh,
Riggy
it's
loves
crying.
to
How he cried
cry.
like 10 times in my show.
He knows how to cry. He knows when to turn on the waterworks.
Yep.
Okay, so go ahead, cry.
We
Come
all
on,
went out to
get the reading done.
dinner, and Megan gets up in the middle of it and just says, we know you've been going through a rough time, and we just wanted to get you something. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, open it up, and at first it's like a frame, so I'm thinking, oh, it's a picture of all of us, right? Like I'm thinking it's a nice picture of all of us. I can hang it up because I
Right.
would have been like completely happy with that too, But they actually all put in and got me a brick in Gettysburg on the square. So my name is going to be
On the town square?
engraved.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Stop now. See, I'm going to cry.
Oh, that's so cool.
But it's going to say
You're
my
gonna be
name
in Gettysburg forever.
forever.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. So it's going to say my name and then heart and soul. And they said, because, Gettysburg is your heart and your soul. So and then she leans in and goes, and then I asked them, and they are going to put it in front of the Inn at Lincoln Square. And that's where I stay every New Year's Eve. And that's my favorite place. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I could never, ever, I don't think I could ever make up for that gift. Like, that's just like the best thing ever.
Yeah, do you know when it'll be in?
They said it'll be placed November of 2022. So
Okay. All right,
November.
cool.
So
All right. Awesome.
I think we should just rent out the Inn at Lincoln Square for New Year's,
Yeah. That's a good idea.
which is, it's not expensive.
We need insurance so that it can't kick us out. Because that's gonna be
Well, they're my good
big
friends.
party. Oh, even better.
Yeah, I go over there
Yeah.
every New Year's Day to have dinner with them,
Awesome.
and we just hang out and stuff. So yeah, they're they do fireworks at midnight. They definitely are having the celebration in the square this year. So all the bars are there, and so if that's something that we want to think about, let me know because I have to let her know.
Okay.
My room's already booked. My room gets booked she has me in for as long as they own the inn. I'm booked in my room for
Awesome.
New Year's. So
That's so cool. That is
yeah.
neat. I can't wait to see that. That's
I know.
wonderful.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait. I'm going to cry again.
Yeah.
But, and
Lincoln.
thanks, Dave.
Hero.
But yeah, so thank you so much.
Anytime.
For literally, this was helping me with this and doing all this work and I know it's time consuming, so I appreciate it really.
Well, I mean, that's what I love to do. So it's a rabbit hole. I love going down rabbit holes and finding this. And I mean, Tim in the chat room earlier, and Dave. I mean, well, the three of us can go down rabbit holes pretty easy. Tim's the worst. Like I can give him an idea, and then he's like 8 hours later, he's like, "Damn it, Kenny, I'm still on this." So I mean, I get it, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So when people reach out and ask questions, I don't mind answering them. I don't mind helping. I don't mind pointing you in the right direction.
Right.
I'm not going to do their work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case here because we were working together.
Yeah.
But there are some people out there like, oh, you know what? I don't know how to do this. Can you look this up for me? No, you go here and you can do it. And it's not because I'm being a dick. It's just
right.
You need to learn how to do this because I don't work for you,
right.
to put it nicely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you learn how to do stuff. Do you offer classes on research? I don't offer classes because I just never got into it. I do lectures once in a while, like for various like humanist groups or skeptical groups. I do lectures on like how to solve mysteries and photography, how to look at the details on photos to try to figure out what's going on. I do my 2 shows every weekend where I get into some of that stuff. But I don't. And then, well, coming up later this year, I'll be doing the skepticism and parapsychology course with Lloyd Arabak again. And that teaches a lot. But I don't do any courses on my own just because I usually don't have time. And I always feel bad setting up because you have to charge money for that kind of stuff to rent
Oh
space
yeah,
and all that. And I just feel weird doing that.
I'm trying to see.
I like just talking like this and doing it like this.
Yeah. Oh no, Lloyd will be on April 20th. I said June for some reason, but he'll be on April 20th.
What is?
Lloyd.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good.
Yeah, Lloyd Auerbach will be on the 20th. So that I'm looking forward to that
Awesome.
for
Awesome.
sure.
I mean, if people have questions, you feel free to reach out to me. It might take a couple days to get back to you. It's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just because I'm running around doing.
Oh yeah, tell them where well,
what?
I guess what Facebook. Tell
Yeah,
them where
you can come to Facebook. I have a public page called I Am Kenny Biddle. You can go there. You can also, if you want 3 opinions on something, you can come to 3 Tortured Souls on Facebook, because then you can get me, Dave, and Tim, and they both have academic backgrounds. I'm just an investigator guy, just a guy that self-taught himself. So at least they have academic credentials. But you can bounce ideas off of 3 of us, and then just reach out. Yeah, Saturday nights, I'm just going to go into my announcements. So Friday nights, I do a show called The Skeptical Help Bar, which it streams to Facebook and YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find it I do 2 hours, and it's pretty much I drink, sometimes a lot more than I should, but I drink, and I sometimes have a guest. I sometimes do open Q&A. And then Saturday nights, we do a show called 3 Tortured Souls. It's Dave Schumacher, Tim Vickers, and myself. And we usually pick a topic, and we just attack it from 3 different perspectives. Like last week, we did the history of witchcraft, part 1.
Where is it? Is that just YouTube or is that Facebook too?
That's YouTube and Facebook. So both.
Because I don't get notifications for that.
Well, maybe you gotta like and follow the pages.
No, you know what Facebook does to me? They unfollow people. Like the group that I have doing my music. Well, they're not doing my music. They're letting me use their music. Let me just put that. Let me say that differently because it sounded weird. But they're letting me use their music. I followed. I looked yesterday to get the song, and it said follow. Like it was giving me the option.
Sure. So yeah, well, the show, I see Kim loves the witchcraft. Oh man, I would have loved that witchcraft. Yes. So the show's still up there. If you go on our YouTube channel, it's still up there. We go from like real early up until the Salem witch trials. We covered that, and maybe this week coming up, we might be doing part 2, and we might have a special guest on with us that is an expert in that area. So we'll have more to talk about. Hopefully, I'm trying to schedule it and book it. So,
oh yeah. So we'll definitely watch that.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Good.
Yeah. Wow, this was great, and it went a lot faster than what I thought. Like I just looked up now, and I'm like, holy shit! Like I didn't realize we were on that long.
It happens. It happens.
Thanks,
I love it. We get a
Dave.
good time. So, okay, instead of Kenny, just drink. 3 drink. Yeah, 3
No,
drunk.
I love it. I'm gonna. I have
That's
to make sure that I gotta check it out. I want to see it.
And you know what's great about that is that the 3 of us can come at it, and most of the time I think we agree, but then there's more times also that we don't agree, and we don't fight, we don't get butthurt, we question each other. If somebody says something that's a little off, we can say, hey, what do you mean by that? Or is that true? You know, what's going on? We can question each other. We can ask each other if we have any proof of that. And it's a good show. We still get along, and nobody gets mad. So it's really good. We keep each other on our toes. We make sure we know what we're talking about. We double check each other. We're constantly talking all week through our own chat, like throwing out ideas, or, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen that? You want to do this? What do you think of this idea? I called this person. So it's fun. We have a lot of fun. and I love working with them guys.
Yeah, no, I definitely will check it out. I don't, no, I've seen it before. I've
You've
commented.
seen it. You've
I've
been
been
on
in
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on
Yeah.
there. So Facebook must have just unfollowed you for me because they just run my
Well,
fucking
because
life.
you're in jail.
I'm
You're a
always in jail.
Facebook
I have to
jailbird.
behave now because now I have somebody. I invited somebody to come on, my first little streamer on Paranormal Brew. I just wanted to try it out and see, And Darren, I have him on there, and he couldn't post anything because I couldn't. So now I'm like, oh great, now I got to behave.
Yep. You don't have to necessarily behave, but you can't type certain things.
Yeah,
Everyone has
well,
to understand the
but
Facebook
somebody
community
wrote
standard.
something after me, the same exact thing, and
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Do not ever type something that is a threat to somebody. Don't do it because you avoid it. It can pick you up. It might ignore somebody else, but it's random. Just don't do it. If you talk like this, it's okay. Because if they just most of the time they'll just delete the video. But I talk shit about people that really deserve it, and I've never had a video taken down.
well,
Now I will though.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Sorry, that's probably only because you were on my show.
Because they're watching you
Yeah.
now. You're on the list.
What'd she say? You should always type that they are going to present it in court.
You should always
I
word your stuff like you're going to present it in court. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't. No.
Yeah.
Not when I see somebody abusing a dog. I'm sorry. The emotions take over.
Walk away.
I just want to say really quick, Aaron. Because I think what Aaron thinks about Robert is that she said that she thinks he has like this obsession with like Ted Bundy, and it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like there's like some psychological thing there with Ted Bundy. And I think that did come into my head more than a couple of times because of how much he would sit there and talk and like, even though he didn't want to talk about it, he talked about it, and he would talk about it in detail and like all this stuff. So I just wanted to say that really quick.
When he talks about the exorcism of Kevin, we're going to get it back into it. We're going.
I know. That's why I said. That's why I was like, okay.
When he talks about the exorcism of Kevin, he always says this thing about the demon said its name, but I'm not going to say its name because that's like a calling card, and we don't want to say its name. He did an interview where he did. And there was one where he gave like a hint saying, "Oh, it starts with a B."
Oh, I heard that one. Yep.
Okay, I know what that is. But then there's a podcast, and I think it's like a Valhalla podcast or Afterlife, or
that was an early one. That was the one in August.
It was an early one, but he's like, and you want me to tell you the name? The name is Baal, and like he says it, I'm like, wait, I just heard like 26 versions of this story where you say you can't say it.
Right.
But this earlier one, boom, there it is. Oh, okay. I get it. Oh my God. He just changes everything so much.
Everything.
You can't keep up with the same story. I think the Ted Bundy obsession, I think more so because it's an evolution of his story.
Right.
Because he did live in Florida for a time. I do have a residence from him in Florida in an apartment where I think he was just close, and the story developed. Maybe, I don't know if he went to University of Florida for something else, or maybe worked there, or worked in a state hospital there. But because he was there and the University of Florida was nearby, that was an easy story element. So yeah, he was there. Ted Bundy was also in that area. That was a serial killer that was there around the same time he was. So it's a convenient story element. So I think it developed from there. I don't know if it's necessarily an obsession, but that's his main story. And we see, what's that noise?
Oh, maybe my heat just kicked on. Here, is it that loud?
I heard like.
You hear it? Is it that loud though? Because I'm thinking I got to adjust my mic.
Maybe. I don't know. So I think if he continues with his storytelling, if he continues with interviews, I think you're going to see a shift from Ted Bundy to something else, someone else.
Hmm.
Maybe a story with like Ed Gein or
Where it can't be, yeah,
the Son of Sam or something like that develops out of this.
right.
Because I mean, the last interview I heard, he was pen pals with the Son of Sam and
Yep.
and this and that.
The
So
BTK and
yeah.
all Jeffrey Dahmer.
So I think you might see an evolution of that. But I don't think he's going to have the opportunity.
Yeah, no. I especially since now he's saying he has an attorney.
No, he doesn't.
I know he doesn't. I'm saying he's using that as his out.
Right.
You know, and that's just that's clear to me. You know that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean that's a cover thing. That's a common thing, especially in this community. It's how many times have you heard like, "Oh, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to talk to my lawyer." Okay, go ahead, bitch. All right, here's my number. Here's my card. You can call me, email me, whatever. You know, Instagram, whatever you want. Just contact me. But they never do.
Yeah.
And like I said, I left my number with Mr. Riggy 3 times, so I'm still waiting for a call back from somebody.
Yep.
And I'm sure I would have heard it. But
yeah, no.
I mean, I'll wait while I play Call of Duty or something like that. I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, he's not going to call you back.
No.
Mm-mm. I think he knows. And I think that's why he pulled the attorney card, and you know he's just going to fade away. Hopefully, you know.
It's a scare tactic. That's all it is. You know, and if it's legit, hey, I'll talk to his lawyer. Sure.
Yep.
But yeah.
Alrighty, right. We are gonna go because we and thankfully this is me cutting the cord.
Yeah, right.
Done.
All right.
Sayonara, suckers. No, I mean I'm done with the Robert Riggy is what I'm done with.
Yep.
So, that's it. That's what I want to do. This was the final thing, and nobody. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Unless Kenny, something comes up and whatever, then I will definitely relay the information.
Yeah.
But, other than that, you won't hear that name come out of my mouth ever fucking again.
Good.
Like, no, not gonna happen. I agree. All right. We will. I'll see you guys. Am I on next week? What's next week?
All right. I don't know.
Yes, next week I have April Busette coming on. Free readings, Kenny.
Oh. Can I get a reading?
Yeah. Yep. That's what I'll have on. So, guys, please join me next week. It'll be fun. And then the following week is a panel of 8 for the JFK conspiracy.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's
might want. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. So I'm looking forward to that one too. But thank you everybody so much for joining us and the questions and the comments and everything. And thank you for welcoming Kenny. And being so nice to him. He's my friend and I love him. So always be nice to my Kenny. Okay. And he is an honorary peach, so he has a peach cup.
That's right.
Well, nobody else does, except for us.
Yeah.
So I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.